Wonderful. Thank you all for joining. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I recognize this is during people's lunchtime or break time, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Meriem Bekka. I'm Senior Manager for Social Innovation within the Office of the CTO and ESG at VMware. And today I'm here to talk about one of the most important relationships in our lives, and that is our relationship with technology. So on one hand, technology is this incredible tool that allows us to do many, many things in our lives that weren't even dreamed of. Like, for example, just hundreds of us connecting over the past couple of days at this conference. And then on the other hand, it's also has led to a range of different issues from screen fatigue to body dysmorphia to notification anxiety. I don't know if notification anxiety is a thing, but I've had it, so I'm going to call it a thing. And what I want to be clear before we get into this conversation is that I believe the onus of responsibility for making technology more generative and humane really lies with the people that have most power. And that's usually technology companies or the governments that shape technology. That said, there are some things that we can do as individuals and as consumers to really create more generative and intentional relationships with technology. So over the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to explore that relationship. And there's only so much that we can do in 30 minutes. Hopefully you're taking a walk or eating lunch or whatever it is you need to do to get a break. But I hope this is just an avenue to really start that journey to lead a more balanced and intentional life that's enhanced by technology. Now, before getting started, this is a mindfulness and technology session. And so we're going to start with a brief 3-minute meditation. Depending on where you're at, this might feel like 3 seconds or 3 hours, but I really encourage you to stick with it. And I noticed before joining the session, a couple of people had added questions to the agenda page about what is mindfulness and what does mindfulness have to do with technology. And so to start, I wanted to share a definition of mindfulness. And for me, it's really around being present and being aware of our bodies and our environment. It's about being attentive and intentional and purposeful. And for anyone that has a yoga practice, one of the definitions of yoga, which mindfulness is a key component, is to cease the fluctuations of the mind. And I love that definition, to cease the fluctuations of the mind. So over the next 3 minutes, and I'm going to set my timer so none of you think I'm cheating and making this a 10-minute meditation. I'll set my timer. And to start, I just want I'm going to turn my video off so that you all aren't distracted by my face, but you can continue to listen to my voice. And you'll take a deep breath and exhale. And if you're willing and able, take a seat. You can place your hands on your lap and take another deep breath and exhale. And one of the things I like to think about with meditation is that it's taught me so much about control. There's so many things in our life that we don't have control over. And it's helped me discern what are the things I can't control and the things that I can, and to focus on those. And so right now in this moment, I'm sure you have emails and maybe family to take care of, many other demands, but you don't have to be anywhere else in the world, but in this moment. And so I encourage you to be present with your breath. And if it's helpful, you can count with each inhale and exhale. Inhale 1, exhale 2. Inhale 3, exhale 4. Inhale 5, exhale 6. Keep focusing on your breath. Inhale 7, exhale 8. Inhale 9, exhale 10, and start over again at 1. And keep counting to 10, starting over at 1. If your mind wanders, that's fine. The intention is about coming back to your breath and coming back to that counting if it's helpful to focus your intention. And we'll keep going for a couple more minutes. Continued your breathing. Deep breath in and exhale. Deep breath in and exhale. Now, as we're coming back together into the present moment, I welcome you all to notice how you're feeling before those 3 minutes, how you're feeling now, and just notice. You don't have to attach judgment to it. Was that painful? Did that feel like forever? Did it go by in a second? And just notice without judgment and without attachment. Now, I want to get into some of the meat of this topic and do something a little bit different. I haven't tried this with a group of 70 people before, so we're going to see how it works and have a little bit of an interactive exercise. So I'm going to drop a link to a Miro board, which is a virtual whiteboard that has been a great tool, really useful for me and my teams in collaborating. And we're going to start with an individual reflection question. So as folks are getting into the board, I'm going to bring everyone over, and I will also share the board in case anyone is not able. Oh wait, I did not paste the link in the right area. Thank you all for letting me know. Okay, here we go. Take 2. So hopefully that works, and I will also share my screen in case folks are not able to join. And if you're not able to do it in the board, feel free to just grab a pen, pencil, your phone, your notes app, anything where you can record information. And the first question we're going to think about is, how has technology detracted from your day-to-day? So you'll see here, I did this with a close friend of mine this weekend, and we started seeding our own answers. And so welcome folks to go onto this board. You can add photos, you can add Post-it notes, and I will set a timer right now so that folks can see how much time they have left. Hopefully everyone can see that timer in the top right corner of the Miro board, and I'll give y'all a 30-second warning when we're getting to the end of the 2 minutes. Hi, so the question is, how has technology detracted from my day to day? And I'll drop it in the chat as well. And folks have about 1 more minute to answer this question. All right, about 20 more seconds. So add in your final thoughts around how technology has detracted from your day-to-day. Thanks for sharing in the chat, Pamela. Yeah, feel free to share in the chat as well, folks. All right, thank you so much. I love how busy this board is. This is wonderful. Thank you all so much for sharing. So what I want to do next is spend a few minutes just hearing from people what they wrote. So if anyone wants to go off mute to share, feel free to raise your hand. At the bottom of the Zoom screen, there's a raise hand function. So feel free to share in the chat, start the conversation here. I've seen a lot of information, overwhelming, a time and sinkhole. Anyone want to share live? Feel free to raise your hands. You can also go into the board and see what people shared if people are too shy to come off mute. Oh, I see Dottie has raised her hand. Dottie, let me here. Hi, Dottie.
Hi there. Thanks. Good exercise. I'm trying to keep up with all the moving parts. Another form of technology that had my mind going everywhere. So I love it, of course, but I do find, I saw some other people mention this, it's almost information overload, and it's so many senses are being pulled in a lot of different ways. So it becomes like hard to focus what's important, and the real time, all the time, I think can be a little stressful. I've caught myself having the radio news on my computer and some more. And I'm thinking, that's just craziness. I'm hearing 3 different things happening to make sure I'm catching different things. So I just think it becomes overload and causes loss of focus, and which means not getting things done, or multitasking in a way which we all know scientifically has proven does not work. So obviously you're not bringing your 100% of what you can do to situations, because technology in that capacity can distract you so much. You're multitasking, and you're not giving 100% of what you probably can do.
Oh, I so appreciate those reflections. I don't know if you saw me nodding, but I can relate to every single one of those. And yeah, that sense where we have access to so much information now, and how do you manage all that? And it almost feels like the notifications and information are controlling us rather than us going to it.
Exactly.
But yeah, and then I love your connection there around multitasking too. It's something I've thought about a lot, as well as like every time I read somewhere that every time you're distracted, it takes you up to 27 minutes to refocus on a task. So I'm thinking of all the notifications I'm constantly getting and how that impacts my performance and everything that I'm doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Dottie. Cheryl, yes, let's have someone else share. Hi, Cheryl. I think if you go off mute.
Yep, sorry about that. So yes, I agree with everything that everybody is putting up on the board and what you all just talked about. But for me personally, all of the notifications it makes me start out my day. I get anxious because I know that I can't respond to everything. And so that causes anxiety, and that builds up throughout the day. The more I get more notifications. And so I end the day the same way. And it just is kind of like this continuous vicious cycle where I feel like I can never find time to just get out of that cycle and relax. And addition to that, I feel like it leaves me less time to focus more on the important things or things that are deadline driven because of all these little interruptions coming up that aren't necessarily part of the bigger picture, but they need to be responded to.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not the only one with notification anxiety.
No.
What I'm hearing. But yeah, I couldn't relate more as, being pulled in so many different directions and yeah, not feeling like we have control of that. I really appreciate you sharing that, Cheryl. All right. Thank you so much for sharing. I love having other voices in the room outside of my own with these presentations. So love to, and more folks will have an opportunity to share after the next question that we're going to answer. So similar idea, we are first going to do an individual reflection. Y'all, this is my grand reveal. Ta-da. And for this question, we'll be reflecting on how has tech enhanced my life? So we recognize there's a lot of ways that technology has detracted from our day-to-day, and we're all connected here all over the world. There's probably people all over the world on this call in this amazing moment. And so you can see we've seeded some answers here. I will start the 2-minute timer because I see folks are already on it, and we can regroup in 2 minutes to discuss. And I will drop the question in the chat. Again, if you don't have access to Miro, feel free to write down in your journal or on your phone app, and I'll add the question in here. About 30 seconds left. All right, thank you all for sharing. Feel free to add in your final ideas or type them into the chat, record them in your journals. And similar to last time, would love to get some voices in this virtual room to share their reflections on the different ways that technology has enhanced your life. Feel free to raise your hand or let us know in the chat that you want to speak and we can try to find you. But if you raise your hand, it's easiest for us because you'll just float to the top of the list. Anyone want, oh, all right. Hi, Dottie. Thanks for being the brave soul again.
I figure we'll kickstart it. I'm in sales, so it's like silence. No. I just think the access to information, right? And also the ability to stay connected, and within that connection of people with chat and Zoom and all those things, the option to collaborate, it just gives us extended arms out into community to learn more and to be more collaborative and more of a collective.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And it made me think of your answer to the first question. It's like two sides of the same coin that, you know,
Double-edged sword.
side, that information overload, and on the other side, recognizing there's so much value in that information, that access, and that connection. I really appreciate that, that reflection. Thank you. Thank you, Dottie. Joanne, okay. Joanne, you should be able to go off mute.
Hi. I think the ability to have an outreach that is global is amazing, right? So versus staying in your own little world, right? So not only professionally via LinkedIn and finding a mentor that, you know, is in a totally different country or where you want to be, and being able to connect with them so easily is amazing. And that's really how I found my latest job, is connecting through somebody that, you know, I just reached out, and it was very simple. And I think during COVID, the ability to stay connected to family and still be, you know, it doesn't take the place of a hug, but it definitely allows you to see them face to face. So I think those two things really, technology has really helped me over the last 2 years.
Thank you for sharing that, Joanne. And I can absolutely relate. I'm sure, like many others, I have a story of the first time I got my grandmother on Skype back in the day when we were still really actively using Skype, and just how cool. I mean, my family lives in Algeria for the most part. So being able to see her in real time and have those conversations is really magical. So thank you for sharing that reflection.
Welcome.
All right, folks. So we have one more individual reflection that I'll invite people to do back on the board. And so I will share, let me go ahead and share the screen again for the final big reveal. So this last question we're going to get to, hopefully you can start to see the connection with all of these, is what are some changes that I can make to have a more intentional relationship with technology? And so thinking about the benefits we've talked about, some of the ways it's detracted from our lives, what are some things that we might do either today or this week or this year to really think about how we can have a more intentional relationship with technology? So I will start the 2-minute timer. And bring us all back together afterwards. And I will drop this question in the chat as well, for folks who want to journal it or do it on their own notes app. About 30 seconds left. All right, start to record your final thoughts. I love these. Turn off, set time limits. Give yourself permission to be offline. And really encourage you all to go back to this board and expand on these exercises. So thank you all so much for being so open to joining me in this today. I hope that this session was insightful and energizing and a little bit of a break from the day-to-day. And mostly, I hope that you can take what we've done here today and extend it in your life, with your community, with your family and your teams. Because like I said at the beginning, there's only so much we can do as individuals. That said, a lot of people on this call work on the teams and with the people who are making decisions about the technology that shapes our lives. We are all leaders in this space that can influence it at a systematic level. So, if we're all really clear on our values, how we want to enhance the human condition, then we can influence that change in our day-to-day. And so I know it's really hard when we have so many competing priorities and so many demands in our day-to-day, but my challenge and my call to action to all of you is, how can you bring more intentionality and mindfulness into everything that you do with technology, both as consumers and also as creators of technology? Now, before parting ways, I will invite everyone to join me in another brief, super brief 1-minute meditation to help us integrate everything that we've learned here together. And I'm setting my timer. I know that it will be so tempting to log off now and get back to your email or answer those notifications, but we will resist the notification anxiety if you can. If you have to sign off, I understand. But we're going to start by taking a deep breath and exhaling. If you can and if you're able, take a seat. I'm going to take myself off video so you can focus. If you're willing and able, you can also close your eyes. Take another deep breath and exhale. Continuing to breathe and focusing on your breath. It's okay if you have thoughts running through your mind. The important thing is to notice them and come back to your breath. We can try the counting exercise, inhaling and exhaling with each count and starting again at 10. Coming back to our breath, coming back to the present moment. Thank you all so much for joining today, for sharing this space with everyone here, and for taking the time for yourselves. I so appreciate you. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to continue the conversation, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference.